Hi there, it's Alan Begg from MacMaths again, and welcome to this week's lesson. This week's lesson is going to be another of the school holiday summer series of Odd One Out quizzes. 20 questions with 4 potential answers. The objective is to spot the odd one out, and can you explain why that is the odd one out? I'll go over the 20 questions first without answers, and then go over the 20 questions in review with answers, and a little bit of explanation if required. If you want to play along, pause after each question, write down your answer, and then we can review it together at the end. Are you sitting comfortably? Let's begin. Question 1. Can you spot the odd one out from these 4 options, and why? A. This shape. B. This shape. C. This shape. And D. This shape. Question 2. Question 2 is based on this three-dimensional object, which is a cube. A. The volume of this cube equals a to the power of 3, a cubed. B. The volume equals a. C. The volume equals a squared. Or D. The volume equals a to the power of 4. What is the correct formula of a cube? Question 3. A. Right. B. Right. C. White. D. Right. Question 4. A. Desert. B. Dessert. C. Dessert. And D. Dissect. What's the odd one out and why? Question 5. A. I'll. B. Couldn't. C. Won't. And D. Isn't. Question 6. A. 2/8. B. 20/80. C. 3/12. And D. 6/12. What's the odd one out from these fractions and why? Question 7. A. 4/10. B. 6/15. C. 12/10/12. D, 10 25ths. What's the odd one out from these fractions and why? Question 8. A, this shape. B, this shape. C, this shape. And D, this shape. What's the odd one out from these 4 two-dimensional shapes and why? Question 9. A, this triangle. B, this triangle. C, this triangle. And D, this triangle. What's the odd one out from these 4 triangles and why? Only based on the information provided. Question 10. We're halfway there. A, tiny. B, large. C, small. D, minuscule. What's the odd one out from these 4 adjectives and why? Question 11. A, bowling. B, jumped. C, paddled. D, swam. What's the odd one out from these 4 verbs and why? Question 12. A, casa. B, escuela. C, queso. D, cheese. What's the odd one out and why? Question 13. A, aisle. B, aisle. C, aisle. And D, while. Question 14. A, 1. B, 2. C, 6. D, 15. What's the odd one out from these 4 numbers and why? Question 15. A, 1.5 plus a half equals 2. B, 7/5 plus 2/5 equals 2. C, 2/3 plus 1 1/3 equals 2. And D, 1 1/4 plus 2/4 plus 1/4 equals 2. What's the odd one out from these 4 sums using fractions? Question 16. A BODMAS question. 1 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. 5 plus 2 times 5 equals 15. C, 2 plus 3 in brackets times 4 equals 20. And D, 10 plus 2 times 3 equals 36. What's the odd one out from these four options and why? Use BODMAS. Question 17. A. Mercury. B. Venus. C. Neptune. And D. Alpha Centauri. What's the odd one out from these four celestial bodies and why? Question 18. A. Blue whale. B. Salmon. C. Hammerhead shark. And D. Tuna. What's the odd one out from these four animals that live in the sea? And why? Question 19, the penultimate question. A. Brazil. B. Sweden. C. Norway. And D. Denmark. What's the odd one out from these four countries and why? Question 20, the last question. A. Manchester. B. Cardiff. C. Newcastle. And D. York. What's the odd one out from these four major cities and why? Okay, that's the 20 questions. How did you get on? Rewind if you want to see some of the questions again. If not, let's review your answers. Question 1. This shape, this shape, this shape, and this shape. What was the odd one out here from these four shapes? It was option D, because D is a two-dimensional triangle, two-dimensional right-angled triangle, whereas the other three are three dimensions, a cube, a cuboid, and a cone. Question 2 was based on a cube. Questions about what is the correct formula for the volume of a cube. Was it A cubed, A squared, or A to the power of 4? The correct answer was A cubed. A times A times A. Question 3. Right, right, white, and right. What was the odd one out here from these four words and why? So the odd one out was white, because right, right, and right all sound exactly the same. They're homophones. They're spelt differently and they mean things, but they sound exactly the same. Right, right, right. Whereas white obviously does not sound the same. Question 4. Desert. 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 Dissect. What was the odd one out from these four words and why? It was D, dissect. Desert, desert, desert are homographs. They sound the same and they're spelled very, very similar, but they mean different things. A desert, and to desert. Very similar spelling, if not identical, but different meanings. Homographs. Question 5. I'll, couldn't, won't, and isn't. What was the odd one out here and why? It was won't, because that's the incorrect spelling of the contraction for will not. The apostrophe is in the wrong place. It should be between the N and the T, like this. Question 6. 2/8, 20/80, 3/12, and 6/12. What was the odd one out from these four fractions and why? It was 6/12, because the other three can be simplified down to 1/4, a quarter. Question 7. 4/10, 6/15, 10/12, and 10/25. The odd one out here was 10/12, because the other three can be simplified ultimately down to 2/5. Question 8. This shape, this shape, this shape, and this shape. What was the odd one out from these four two-dimensional shapes? That's right, it was A, because all the others are quadrilaterals, 4 sides, whereas A has got 6 sides, it's a hexagon. Question 9. This triangle, this triangle, this triangle, and this triangle. What was the odd one out from these 4 triangles, solely based on the information provided? It was this triangle, triangle D, because the other 3 triangles are isosceles, whereas D is a right-angled scalene triangle. Question 10. Tiny, large, small, and minuscule. What was the odd one out from these 4 adjectives? The odd one out here was large, because tiny, small, and minuscule all mean the same thing. They are synonyms, whereas large means the opposite. It is an antonym of the other 3. Question 11. Bowling, jumped, paddled, swam. What was the odd one out here from these 4 verbs and why? It was bowling, because bowling is in the present tense. The other 3 are verbs in the past tense. Question 12. Casa, escuela, queso, and cheese. What was the odd one out here and why? So the odd one out here is cheese, because cheese is in English, whereas the other three words are in Spanish. Queso, in fact, is Spanish for cheese. Question 13. Isle, 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 and while. What was the odd one out here and why? It was while, because the other three are homophones. They sound very similar, but they're spelt differently. Isle, isle, isle sound identical, but they're spelt differently and mean different things. Question 14. 1, 2, 6 and 15. What was the odd one out from these four numbers and why? It was 2, because 2 is a prime number. 1, 6 and 15 are not prime. Question 15. 1 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 2. 7/5 plus 2/5 equals 2. 2/3 plus 1 1/3 equals 2. And 1 1/4 plus 2/4 plus 1/4 equals 2. One of these formulas using fractions is incorrect. Which was the incorrect one? Did you get it? It was B. 7/5 plus 2/5 is equal to 9/5, which can be simplified to 1 4/5. 7/5 plus 2/5 does not equal 2. B was the odd one out. All the other three are correct. Question 16. A BODMAS question. Use BODMAS for these next two questions, 16 and 17. 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 equals 10. 5 plus 2 times 5 equals 15. 2 plus 3 in brackets times 4 equals 20. 10 plus 2 times 3 equals 36. Three of these formula have the correct answer. One does not. The one that does not is D. Using BODMAS, you would do the multiplication first. 2 times 3 is 6, plus 10 equals 16, does not equal 36. The correct answer is not 10 plus 2 equals 12 times 36. That is not the correct answer. Question 17. A. Mercury. B. Venus. C. Neptune. And D. Alpha Centauri. What was the odd one out from these four celestial bodies? It was Alpha Centauri. Alpha Centauri is the closest star to our galaxy other than the Sun, and it is 4.2 light years away. Question 18. Blue whale, salmon, hammerhead shark, and tuna. What was the odd one out from these four animals that live in the sea? It was blue whale, because blue whale is a mammal, whereas the other three salmon, hammerhead shark and tuna are fish. Blue whale, although it lives in the sea, is not a fish. It's a mammal. Question 19, second last question. Brazil, Sweden, Norway and Denmark. What was the odd one out from these 4 countries and why? The odd one out was Brazil, because Brazil is in South America. Sweden, Norway and Denmark are all countries in Europe. Sweden, Norway and Denmark are grouped together with a couple of as being called Scandinavian countries. And question 20, the last question. Manchester, Cardiff, Newcastle, and what was the odd one out from these 4 major British cities? It was Cardiff, because Cardiff is in Wales. It's the capital of Wales. Manchester, Newcastle and York are all in England. How did you get on with that 20 question odd one out round? I'm sure you got them all right. If you got any value from this lesson, please like it, please repost it, share it with your friends and family, and consider subscribing. Until the next time, this is Alan Begg from McMaths signing off. Cheers.